I think you should speak to Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris. It would be an amazing discussion. Oh yeah, it would be wonderful. It'd be wow. What a I don't know if bड़ी hastiyan, yeah, these are like huge entities in their own right. You know, I'll tell you, we got into a little discussion the other day, and I was saying that I don't think people appreciate. See, maybe it's the generational gap. Maybe it's I don't know. But I don't think people truly appreciate the shift in dynamics in our time and who these key and why some of these key figures are so central. And the discussion began because of there was a clip which I shared on my Insta story about Jordan Peterson speaking to, I've forgotten the other guy's name. But he was saying that, you know, why they can't cancel Joe Rogan, because recently there's been all this heat on Joe Rogan. And he said, well, if they do, you know what would happen is Elon Musk would just give him a call and say, let's set up our own thing, rival Spotify. And I thought, what a power move, huh? But we got into this discussion, some friends and I, and you see, the thing is that these people are such phenomenal figures for what they symbolize in our age. I mean, Joe Rogan, naturally, for that, it's not about his views, but it's what he symbolizes. Because people always, you see, it's natural to have a problem with authority. And because authority is often abused. And so the state and huge corporations, these, especially in our age, these are, although in many ways invisible yet present, like we don't know the day-to-days or we don't know them in a personal manner. Okay, with the state, you might see certain things being, you know, thrown in the news, but these things from behind the shadows dictate. And then you have certain symbols, like Joe Rogan, more than what he does is he's become a symbol of free speech. Now, Elon Musk is another such a central figure who I think is in incredible awe of him, because he is a huge visionary of our age. And in addition to being one of the most wealthiest people, you know, tycoons on earth, yet he's so devoted to this mission of his. And because of the power he wields, in a way, he is like a parallel authority to authority. Even though he isn't like that. It's not that he goes around doing these things. I mean, occasionally he does, but my point is that he symbolizes that. You see, it's not that you have to do the things, you have to be seen to symbolize those things. And he does that. And Jordan Peterson, you see this, I don't know how many people appreciate this. He truly, in our age, symbolizes faith. The ability to have faith in a modern world and not be embarrassed of it. Because I know, well, Muslims would say, well, many Muslims say, well, we're not embarrassed of our faith, and we shouldn't be embarrassed of our faith. But generally speaking, in the Western world, unfortunately, the way the situation is, as Muslims, we don't count. We're insignificant. Okay, we have to sometimes eat a humble pie and just be honest that, you know, in the West, because if you're looking at the world as a whole today, Like, imagine you're an alien, you've come to Earth. Now, when you come to Earth, with very little time, you'd be able to determine what parts of the world wield the most power. That would be very simple to understand, that where the power axes lie. And that's what you'd be interested in. You'd be interested in, well, okay, so it's very clear America, the West, this part of the world dictates the momentum of the world. It dictates the culture. It dictates the language of the world. English is an international language. It is from these places. They dictate the currency and the trade of the world. The markets, the free markets, the global economy. It is dictated by these exchanges. So, okay, so this seems to be the hub. Okay, so now you look at the hub, and well, religion had not only fallen out of fashion since, let's say, in this part of the world, since, I don't know, the 80s or whatever, the late 80s, definitely, it had become ridiculed. So even if somebody wouldn't purposely make fun of you in front of you, but it was seen as somewhat primitive to believe in God. And especially in the face of rising, the rising star of science. It is, and then you had the celebrity atheists that rose on the back of that, and you had the Four Horsemen. You have Hitchens and Sam Harris, and who came like a meteor, and Richard Dawkins and Dan Dennett. And these people, they are huge in what they did. People can't, maybe because people are not exposed to the greater society, they just, if all you meet and read and watch are your friends and family, and maybe you watch some TV and watch some sports, and that's it, then I guess you wouldn't really know. But if you look at the world dynamics, they had really done severe damage to faith, to the extent that, just take America as a fine example. In America, it was virtually, I would say, whether, if not impossible, very close to be a professor within a university and proclaim that you have a faith. I mean, if it was not impossible, it would be a very difficult, arduous task to do that wouldn't be worth the task because of the amount of difficulties that you'd find yourself in. So just think about that. Take a moment to let that sink, and then you think, wow. And what was going to answer these questions? And really, it had to come from somebody who has a profound insight to Western culture, because that's the sunnah of Allah. When that whenever the message comes to a people, it comes, and I don't mean as a prophet here, but whenever a message comes, whenever it is explained, it is bilisan al-qawm. It is with the tongue of the people, not just English, but a deep, profound culture. And I remember many years back, I mean, not many, let's say about, it was probably 2015, 2016. I remember having a discussion with certain Maulanas and Muftis and religious people about that there is nobody that can take on the likes of Sam Harris. There is nobody that can take on the likes of Hitchens. I mean, Hitchens had kind of passed, but there was nobody that could really take these people on. I mean, I don't mean, let's be fair about it. Pretend there is a non-Muslim audience watching, or a non-believing audience. To them that are neutral, obviously, if let's say a Muslim said, I'm going to debate Richard Dawkins, and then they said, well, this is the Aristotle said this, and they said this, and our arguments, and then the Muslims naturally we will have a confirmation bias. We're going to say, well, yeah, because it helps us, we're going to celebrate that. And there's nothing wrong in doing that. That is fine. That's natural. But to the greater audience who are not believers, or who are skeptical, or who are agnostic, or to the Muslims who are on the brink, it didn't give them peace of mind. They were really troubled. And really, I remember thinking about this and discussing this with people, that there's really, honestly, that this is so difficult, this age that we're in. And maybe because people don't follow these atheists so closely, sometimes ignorance is bliss. Ignorance can be often bliss. If you don't know about all the dangerous ideas out there, then sure, you're in a blissful and arguably a blissful state. But all the people that do know, and with the proliferation of the internet, it's, and I have to say, where else could the answer come from? When you think about the West and you think of science, the answer had to come from science, because that is what the culture and the language of the people was. And I feel the answer came twofold. It came, one, with astrophysics in part, and the other, it came with psychology. Because people underestimated the power of psychology, because it too is a science, albeit a soft science, but it's a science. See, that's what Freud says. He says, make no mistake. He says, this work of ours is a science. And going deep into symbolic structures of the world in terms of language, the human psyche, Carl Jung, it's so, now it's common sense. When you watch it now, you think, wow. It's amazing, honestly. I think because it's happening in front of us, we can't appreciate it. But generations that will come later will look back at these times and think, wow, these were defining moments that changed the trajectory. Now it's actually, a person can openly say they believe. And this, it's not so absurd. And New Age atheism, celebrity atheism, is kind of dying its death. It's interesting, isn't it? I tell you, we are living in interesting times. May Allah bless them for us all. Ameen.